which game, I should say, we think is most important this season. Which game is the most important game on the schedule for Nebraska football as we go into the 2025 season? As we try to get these technical issues worked out.
Hello.
Oh, you got me, Nate?
I got you. You got me.
Yeehaw. All right.
There go.
Here we go. All right. Well, we are, as I said, previewing linebackers, tight ends. Linebackers was last week. Previewing tight ends today and talking most important games. And Nate, before we get into all of that, I did last night one of the most fun summer traditions. We had the corn on the cob, the sweet corn.
Oh, yes.
Get that. You boil it up. You serve it with we served it with some leftovers, but burgers and dogs, whatever you want to do.
Sure.
It is a summertime staple. The kids know, we're gonna get the stick of butter out. We roll it in the butter. We salt it down. Everything's good to go with it. Is that one of your summertime traditions? You get down with the sweet corn?
We get down with the sweet corn. With the butter, with the salt and pepper. You got to convince the kids about the salt and pepper, but sweet corn definitely in play in the Rohr household.
Good deal. Well, one of the staples of summer that you can also count on, in addition to corn on the cob, is talking season.
Yes.
Which the SEC just went. I don't know if there's anything that really stuck out to me. I think maybe the biggest thing was like Lane Kiffin's comment where he apparently tried to throw another SEC coach under the bus, but didn't name that SEC coach and said, yeah, if we just played Clemson every year, it'd be an easier schedule than playing in the SEC or every week, which, okay, yeah, you should play a top 10 team every week and see how that goes. So anything stick out to you from SEC media days, whether it was Greg Sankey or one of their players or coaches?
Maybe Greg Sankey and the continued push for 16 teams into the playoff, which I guess Eli Drinkwitz advocating for 30 teams in the playoff, which that is a bucket of nope. That is a whole bucket of nope. Leave it to the Mizzou coach to have a harebrained idea like that. Frankly, it was funny. They were talking about how if the Big Ten and the SEC can't agree on automatic qualifying teams, then this thing sticks at 12. And it's like, don't threaten us with a good time. The playoff, I thought, was a success at 12. There were some issues with the seeding, but I thought the home site provision was electric. Frankly, I think it should be spread to the top to where the top 4 teams get to host a game as well. But if you correct the seeding, then I think the playoff is really, really good and about where it needs to be. And it's funny that everybody is so desperate to tweak it after just 1 year of this 12-team setup. And the fact that they can't agree is going to make the best outcome possible, which is just staying with what they have with the adjustments to seeding to where you don't have to be a conference champion to get a top 4 seeds. So that was kind of funny to me. Drinkwitz going off about 30 teams in the playoff was silly. The SEC's continued defense of their 8-game conference schedule while taking shots at the Big Ten, and no, Indiana didn't help anything by hopping out of that series with Virginia. But, you look at 9 Big Ten games versus 8 SEC games. It should be pretty clear that 9 is greater than 8. And yet somehow the Southeastern Conference, in its infinite wisdom, says that they're at least equal, if not 8 is greater than 9, which is a bizarre provision. So it's the typical SEC chest thumping. Our conference is better than everybody else. And maybe it is, but it's not by near the margin they think. And I think that margin continues to tighten.
I agree. And we'll obviously, everybody will hear the Big Ten do a little chest thumping here coming up this week, including potentially Matt Rule on Tuesday when Nebraska and his players go. with their turn over in Vegas. But it's that there's nothing else to do at this point other than talk.
Sure.
And so it is what it is. But yeah, the whole college football playoff discussion, the revenue sharing discussion, like all that stuff, we've hit on it, I think, every week it seems like this summer. But I'm interested to seeing just how this one plays out this year with that college football playoff and not having the top 4 teams automatically be the conference champs. And let's let that play out maybe once,
Sure.
twice before we change the whole thing again. That's where I'm at. I think if I'm just generic college football fan, or even passive college football fan who just kind of parachutes in for the big games and then shows up around the playoff time, I don't think they're super excited about literally everything changing every year.
Yeah.
So just a little stability for a little bit would be fine with most people. Like, just there's not a college football commissioner.
Yeah.
You have each conference commissioner looking out for their own. And until that changes, we're still just going to have constant jockeying for position, and hopefully not a lot of realignment for a little while, but you never know.
Yeah.
And as far as that goes for Nebraska within the Big Ten, they're adjusting now to the larger conference only having one common opponent from last season, or excuse me, 3: USC, UCLA, and Iowa, but Iowa really being the only one locked in on a year-to-year basis. And so that piece of it gives Nebraska an opportunity, I think, to kind of elbow their way into that upper crust if they can take that step in 2025. If they can take that next step in terms of winning a game they shouldn't, or getting the wins that they are favored in, whatever the case may be, they need to start taking those steps forward on the field, as we've discussed, because it's for the taking. There's a lot of turnover at quarterback across the conference. Nebraska is not in that position. They've got their QB coming back. So the other parts of the roster obviously are important. And, Ohio State not having the same quarterback as last year, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
They've got talent everywhere else, but Nebraska's got an opportunity here. As we'll talk about what maybe our most important game is for the season. It is certainly the most important season for Matt Rule. His the very popular year 3 thing with him. It's now or never in terms of making an impact on the field and taking advantage of the opportunity ahead of them.
No question. I mean, this is the most favorable schedule Nebraska has had since they joined the Big Ten. He returns his starting quarterback. You've talked about his pattern in that third year, where his teams generally take a big jump. And if everything that Matt Rule has said is working in his program, this is the year when it happens. This is a roster that has been young the last 2 years. Well, now it's starting to get old a little bit. He's got his coordinators set. And yes, I know all 3 of them are in their first full season at Nebraska, but he's had a chance to define what he thinks winning football looks like in the Big Ten Conference in 2025. So the chance is there. There's a power vacuum in this league other than Ohio State and Penn State. I mean, even Oregon is still settling in. Oregon's probably part of that upper crust, but we don't know where Michigan's going to go in the Sharon Moore era. We don't know where Wisconsin's going to go. Wisconsin's vulnerable. Iowa's on the ropes. Kirk Ferentz isn't going to coach many more years. This
finally,
yeah. Oh God, please get him out of there. Northwestern is down. About the only quote unquote Big Ten West team that you feel better about right now than you felt about them, say, when Matt Rule took the job, is Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, Iowa is Iowa. Minnesota's becoming Iowa North, essentially, in more ways than one with PJ Fleck. But after that, Northwestern's down, Wisconsin's down. You just feel like the door is opening for Nebraska. They've got to charge through it, though. I mean, there have been points in their history where things have started to line up, where that you start to feel good about the program, and then something happens. It can't happen this year. I mean, there are a lot of chips on the table in this season. When you think about what has gone on the last 20 years in Nebraska athletics, and then what is going to go on in the next 5 with the stadium renovation, with reseeding Memorial Stadium, people are going to demand results for their investment, and they should. I mean, it's as simple as that. This fan base has invested, they've supported, they've backed, and it's time for them to get something out of it. I think they will. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's a point where they should be asking, okay, what are we doing here? And there are no excuses. This is not, when the Huskers joined the Big Ten, and the Big Ten, the schedule was stacked against them. The door is open. They need to walk through. It's as simple as that. I think they'll be able to do it, but they've got to do it.
Yeah, we're up on the StreamYard. Kenny Larrabee is helping us out with that one. We are on all the KLIN socials, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We're on the Husker Hour Facebook page as well. We had up to 98 last week, so let's get to 100 today. Again, we've got Luke Lindenmeyer coming up here in a minute. We got him helping us break down the tight end position, and then Nate and I will take a deep dive in. It's one of the positions with a really wide range of outcomes, Nate, so I'm excited to dig into that. And again, we're going to hit our most important game of the season. There's not 12 on the table in terms of picking the most important game, but
you're not picking Houston Christian.
There's maybe 8 or 9 that you could make an argument for based on a number of different factors. So I'm interested to see where each of us come out on that. But that is all coming up here today. It is maybe the last boring Saturday we'll have for a long time in these parts. Hopefully that's the case. We're into Big Ten Media Days next week. And then fall camp is right around the corner, baby. We're almost there. Yeah. And I've been playing a little bit of college football 26 too, so that's fun. Not a whole lot of insight from me there, but it's exciting. I'm liking it. All right, back with more after this, including our talk with Luke Lindenmeyer, Husker tight end, right after this here on the KLIN Husker Hour. to some of the 2025 discussion. What's the off season been like for you? Obviously, this is the third off season with this coaching staff, so I would imagine you guys are pretty used to the mat drills and the conditioning and all the stuff that you guys do. How are you feeling going into the year?
I'm feeling the best I ever felt, personally and team wise. But really, the whole off season, my main thing was just being able to step into that leadership role that I didn't think I was ready for. But after the first month of winter training, I became more acclimated to it and just been growing in that position. And then personally, I just been trying to get my body right, work on my physical numbers, my body fat percentage, getting that down, and working on my speed too.
Luke, you're known for what you're able to do out blocking on the perimeter. You played with a guy in Thomas Fedoni last year who was more of the pass receiver type tight end. How do you bring out your skills as a receiver while also not losing anything as a blocker out on the edge, which is kind of how you made your name?
Mm-hmm. So I'm I'm lucky that when my blocking ability was needed back in the 2023 season, I was able to step up and kind of carve out a role for myself in that area. But I was still, able to run routes, still shifty in that area. I've always been pretty good at running routes because of my basketball background, so I'm thankful for that. And thanks to my high school trainer, Yano, who passed away last year. I've always been pretty good at routes, but I haven't been able to show that. And just taking this whole last year to show the coaches that I can excel in that area. So I think I've always been good at both, but it's just been given the opportunity to do both, which now I have.
Luke Lindenmeyer joining us here on Husker Hour, previewing the tight end group. Luke, with the end of last season, we saw a shift a little bit in the offense with the addition of Dana Holgerson to the staff and then him taking over as play caller, as offensive coordinator, with a whole offseason to kind of work on what kind of game plans that you guys will have and build that offense around your guys' skill sets. What are you most looking forward to in terms of what he does and how he does it for an offense?
Well, I think it's just simple. Like I don't have to worry as much about what I have to do, but I can worry more about opponent film and how a person's going to play me instead of worrying being in my playbook more than I can spend time watching film, just because it's all simplified down. And Holgerson did a really good job at that.
How do you think your connection has grown with Dylan here since the Pinstripe Bowl? As the primary guy at tight end, there are other possibilities at that position, of course, but you're the one that's most experienced there. How do you feel like your connection with him has grown?
It's grown great. I mean, me and him have a shared favorite artist in Rod Wave, and him invited me down to Dallas at the beginning of the summer, spending a few days with him and his family and some of the other receivers. Has just been great, just being around him. Me and him have both been doing extra cardio workouts and boxing workouts, so pushing each other in that too. It's just been great off season with him.
Husker tight end Luke Lindenmeyer joining us here on Husker Hour. Luke, we've talked with a few other players this summer a little bit about their off seasons, and a theme that's kind of come through has been more of a player-led group as opposed to coach-led. And you mentioned earlier how you're stepping into more of a leadership role. What does that look like for you guys as a team when you're player-led versus coach-led, as far as how the off the field stuff works, as well as how it might manifest itself between the white lines?
I mean, our biggest coach is really each other, because we'll listen to somebody around our age who's going through the same workouts that we're doing all the hard stuff. There's more respect to a person who holds you accountable that's doing the same thing that you're doing. So I feel like guys are listening to each other more, which is a huge step. And I have a strong faith, and I'm thankful to have Coach Rule as a head coach who encourages building faith on a team. And I've been having a weekly team Bible study, and thanks to Coach Chambers, who works at Arizona Christian University, coming in and helping us out too. Now we have a weekly team prayer. So I believe in, a player-led team, but also each player being spirit-led too. So just building a strong foundation with each other, and that foundation being in God. I feel like with that strong foundation, nothing could break us, win or lose.
Luke, you talk about greater player leadership, and you're going to step into more of a leadership role among the tight ends anyway, with the departures, with the graduations. You're a junior now. How have you grown, like you've been able to work as a leader in a tight end room that has a lot of potential, but also has, I think, 3 guys who haven't really played a whole lot as tight ends at the college level?
Yeah. I mean, I was just like talking normal tight end stuff with some of the guys, but they were looking at me like I was crazy sometimes, like they didn't understand. But it was just conversations that I've had with the previous tight ends that were here ever since I was a freshman, with Travis Vokalek, Chancellor Brewington, Thomas Adoni, and Nate Borkature. I mean, those guys helped mold me and helped build my tight end knowledge and all the experience the 2 years I've had playing, and just allowing myself to just pour out to those guys, and them asking me questions, them being comfortable and asking me questions, and just doing extra indie work together, them paying attention to whenever I like a coaching point, because they trust me. I mean, I've been playing tight end in the Big Ten for 2 years now. I've seen a lot of different things happen on different blocks, different routes, and just them wanting to learn from me has been eye-opening to me, and like an impact I can have on them and their tight end careers, and has been really helpful to me, because when I'm teaching them, I'm also teaching myself too, just reminding myself about these fundamental things.
Luke, I'm always interested in how walk-ons, when they started their careers, walk-ons, how they kind of perceive their opportunity when they first start out. Take yourself back to high school. Tell me what his expectations were going to Nebraska. Like, do you think you've met him? Are you further than you thought you would get, or are you still maybe thinking you've got more to do? And try to juxtapose that against what you thought when you were coming into this as a high school senior.
Well, honestly, I thought, I was just my freshman year here, I was just happy to go to Ireland and go to fall camp, really. And when I was a senior in high school, I didn't even really believe in myself that much. Really, like the trainer, my high school trainer that I talked about earlier, Yano Jones, he's the one who believed in me more than I believed in myself. He's the one who was talking about me being the NFL draft one day, and I was sitting there thinking, like, I don't even think I'll play in college that much. But now that I'm here, now that I've done that, and now that I've done all the things that he said I would do, I just have so much more belief in myself, and all it took was him believing in me. And now I got Coach Holgerson who came in believing in me. There's all these people who believe in me and poured in me. Now I'm starting to believe in myself, and now I have greater goals. Now I believe I can play the game further than college. So just, and my walk-on mindset just pushing me every day to become better, and never being satisfied with where I'm at, and just keep working, keep pushing to the player I know I have become.
You mentioned Dana Holgerson's offense. You had the 3 games in it to end last year, but now you've had a whole spring ball, a whole summer ball. You mentioned how he simplified things. What in Dana Holgerson's offense do you think is going to accentuate what you do? In other words, what strengths are people going to see from you that maybe they might not have seen before now that you're fully settled into the new offense?
I think just the ability to run routes, to run after the catch, and just wherever he needs me. Like he does a great job of knowing the weapons he has and using them to their best potential. Like one example is Janarin Bonner. We call him Wood. He's a Swiss Army knife, and Holgerson realized that, and he's using him everywhere. So,
yeah, another couple minutes here with Luke Lindenmeyer here on Husker Hour. With the tight end group that you have, what are we going to see as far as multiple tight end sets? How often are we going to maybe see like three of you guys out there together? What types of things can Husker fans look forward to in the fall as far as production? What expectations you have? Give us a little preview into what you think the fall could hold for you guys as a tight end group.
well, I believe we're tight end university. So you're going to be seeing a lot from the tight ends this year. But we got Mac Markway, who got injured last year, and Nebraska fans haven't seen him yet, but he's a guy that's great blocker, kind of same build as me, great route runner too. And then you got Heinrich in there. Nobody can run with Heinrich. I mean, Heinrich is an insane athlete, and just having our interesting mix of guys. We got Eric Ingwerson, who's a taller, blocking type, very physical. And then once Carter's healthy, we have him, another freak athlete, super athletic guy. I mean, we got all kinds of tight ends, and teams aren't really going to know, because we could be 12 or 13 personnel, but we really got like two receiver body types out there that run like a receiver, run routes like a receiver. And then our young guys too, Caden Nechternock, Danny King. I mean, we got a great room. That's why we call ourselves Tight End U.
How much competition is there right now between you guys? Obviously you're the elder statesman of the group. Heinrich's played a lot of football, but not as a tight end. Are you guys competing right now, thinking, okay, we can use each other to sharpen each other?
Well, I feel like in the spring with Max and Carter being hurt, it was more like teaching. Me teaching Heinrich, really, his first offseason, being a tight end, and teaching the younger guys too. And now this offseason, it's been straight like weight room competition. Like I'm trying to lift more than Danny King. Danny King's trying to run faster than me. I'm trying to catch up to Heinrich somehow, which probably won't happen. But I feel like once we get into fall camp, that's when the real competition is going to settle in, when we get the pads back on.
Absolutely. Well, before we know it, August 28th will be here, and it'll be time for the 2025 football season. We're excited, looking forward to that with you and the tight end position in particular. Luke Lindenmeyer, junior tight end at Nebraska, joining us here on Husker Hour. Luke, I really appreciate the time. Thanks a lot for joining us here, and we will watch you in this season. Good luck.
Appreciate it, guys. Tight end you, man.
Sounds good, Luke. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there goes Luke Lindenmeyer at Nebraska. We're going to break down a little bit more when we come back here, Nate. But yeah, they have a lot of versatile type players that they could throw out there on the field.
And yet, past Lindenmeyer, a lot of unknowns. I mean, he mentioned Carter Nelson continuing to recover from injury. Mac Markway working back from injury. Nebraska did not get a chance to see him. And then you have Heinrich Harburg settling into a new position.
Yeah. Fascinating position group. More on the tight ends when we come back as the summer position previews continue here. More to come here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
giving you a complete review of the Huskers news this week. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Rolling along here on your Saturday morning. Good to talk with Luke Lindenmeyer there, Husker tight end. He's going to be an important part of this offense. If you missed that conversation, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast page, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, whatever you find those podcasts. Search KLIN Husker Hour, get yourself subscribed. Give us a 5-star rating. Tell your friends. We appreciate you listening back. And you can watch live or after the fact on the StreamYard link. It's on all the KLIN socials, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the Husker Hour Facebook page as well. And Nate, it was an interesting conversation with Luke Lindenmeyer. And I let the thing that I had told you right during the break there was the walk-on part, almost the polar opposite of the answer that John Bullock gave last year when we talked to him in the offseason, where Bullock said, yeah, I expected to be able to play at this level and believed in myself all the time. And Luke said, hey, my trainer's telling me I'm going to be an NFL draft pick. And I'm like, what? I'm just happy to be there. It's very funny to me that he still ends up in the place, being a very important piece here for this offense.
Yeah, the differing mindsets are really interesting there, because you feel like John Bullock's is the one that leads to a greater likelihood of success. Act as if, the old line, and John Bullock acted as if, and it ended up serving him. And when the odds don't look like they're in your favor, you've got to believe in you before anybody else believes in you. But sometimes all it takes is one guy saying, that's in you. If you work hard, if you put in the time, I can lead you to the point where you can play college ball and play perhaps professional football. So it is interesting how that's developed for him. And it feels like Luke's, kept a really level head about how he's gone about his work and continued to chip away and improve.
Yeah, he had the, I think, biggest hinge point of the 2024 season. If you remember that fourth quarter of the Illinois game when Raiola finds him in the back of the end zone and just misses him and might have put the game away. Yeah. Instead, it goes to overtime. We all know the story, but boy, you start 4-0 and then you go to Purdue and like it may have been a whole different deal had that been completed. But at any rate, there's a very wide range of outcomes when it comes to the tight end position this year. Luke Lindenmeyer could be a pass catching weapon. He might see his production uptick quite a bit. Henrik Harburg could look like a traditional tight end when he runs routes and blocks. We don't know how easily he'll make that transition. Is Mac Markway healthy? How soon will Carter Nelson be healthy? There's a lot of options on the table when it comes to the tight end position.
Yeah, it's a position pretty similar to the linebacker spot, in that I think you've got a lot of possibility. You've got a lot of exciting bodies, and yet not much production and not much in guys who have done it before, because as you look at it, Heinrich Harburg's played a lot of football, but not at tight end. And Mac Markway is a guy who you get excited about, having played at LSU and been recruited by them, but he's not done it at Nebraska. And Carter Nelson's super athletic, and you like the possibilities there, but he's not done it at tight end, and he's coming off an injury. And so you feel like there are pieces there, there are possibilities there. For that matter, Luke Lindenmeyer, his role is going to change so much, I think, from being a block first tight end to a guy who's at least a little more balanced in that respect. He's going to be a receiver and a blocker. Not that he wasn't a receiver last year. That's going to be a bigger part of what he's asked to do this year. Thomas Fidone was essentially the guy to catch the ball at tight end last year, and whatever production you got out of Lindenmeyer, you were happy with it. Losing Nate Borkercher hurts a whole lot, because that would have been another experienced guy, another guy that you were comfortable with, that you could have leaned on to bring along Nelson and Markway and Harburg and everything like that. So it's just a position where you feel like they could be really helpful, but at the same time, you don't know that. And it's tough to project that with any real certainty just because they haven't done it at this level yet. They could be really good. And, for Dylan Raiola to take that next step, they probably have to be. But, you just can't sit here without having seen practice, without having gotten a feel for where they are and say, yep, the tight ends are going to produce at a high level.
Yeah. The production part of it is I think something that is going to be something to watch this year. Just looking at those top 3 tight ends from last season, Thomas Fidone, NFL draft pick, New York Giants, Nate Borakircher, transferred to Texas A&M, and then Luke Lindenmeyer, returner. So obviously Fidone led the team in terms of tight end production, 36 catches, 373 yards. But his biggest contributions in an individual game outside of the Indiana game, which was kind of a one-off with
Right.
How badly they were getting blown out. 5 catches, 50 yards in the Pinstripe Bowl for Fidone. He had 6 catches against Indiana. For Borakircher and Lindenmeyer, they each had 1 reception apiece before Holgerson took over play calling duties in the USC game. Lindenmeyer ended up with 4 more catches from that point forward, and Borakircher had 5 more catches from that point forward. So 3 tight ends at that point producing in terms of, whether the route is designed for them or it's just drawn up in such a way that Raiola finds them because they're open. That angle of it, how much you'll see in terms of catches, yards, touchdowns from guys at this position, I think it's going to tick up. And not just because of the offense, but you get an athlete like Heinrich Harburg, Carter Nelson. Hopefully he's healthy enough to start making an impact early in the season. And Mac Markway is the ultimate unknown too, with not knowing what you're going to get from him, but having played at LSU and been a part of that program, he's got the talent level to do it. The production is definitely something to watch. And like I said, a very wide range of outcomes, I think.
Yeah, no question about it. And especially where 2 of the guys that we're talking about here are coming off of substantial injuries. And at least in Nelson's case, it'll slow him down starting preseason camp. I mean, they don't know what their bodies are going to do, first off. And then how is their physical presence going to help them produce in this offense? So, I mean, that could, but you also look at them and say they could be real good. Now, the old line is potential means you haven't done it yet. And I think if we assume the two deep of the 2 tight end spots of Lindenmeyer, Markway, Nelson, and Harburg in some order, that doesn't sound crazy, does it?
No, I don't think it does.
Right.
I think, and yeah, you might see in terms of like who the starter is, you might see a couple different guys in a couple different lineups throughout the year. Whether they designate one guy as the guy on the depth chart remains to be seen.
Right.
I'm more interested in who emerges as, the main, the focal point of this position group. I don't know that it's not going to be difficult for me to bet on the athleticism of Heinrich Harburg with all the different things that you can do with him, the places that you can put him in formations. You can motion him out wide. You can have him in line and then have him run out on a route. He can get in open space and you can just see him run like he did a few times at the quarterback position, getting out on the option. I think if Heinrich Harburg emerges as a real weapon and you kind of see him pop in like 3 or 4 games this year, that's gonna signal very big things for this offense. It's gonna make Dylan Raiola's job easier. It's gonna make life in the run game easier, and it's really gonna put a lot of stress on those defensive coordinators.
Yeah, the question I have though is more focused on the blocking. Remember last year, perimeter blocking was such a weak point for this team. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Dana Holgerson called it out.
Yeah, he did.
And you're looking at the situation, and you would say Lindenmeyer would be a guy that can handle that, right off the bat. If Markway's healthy, he probably can handle that. But 2 of the guys that you're counting on here, I mean, Carter Nelson has played all over the field in his career. But he, especially in high school, he had the ball in his hand so much he didn't have to worry about blocking because he was running behind it. And then Heinrich Harburg's been a quarterback and he's settling into that blocking. So, as much as we're talking about how much they're going to catch the ball, how often they're going to be thrown the ball, I'm almost more worried, and that might be overstating it a little. I'm almost more interested in how they block, because if they block well, that opens up all sorts of things out on the perimeter. You certainly want them to be weapons in the passing game, but they also need, I think it's almost more important that they block well, and then hopefully you get some production from them catching the ball.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Where do you rate the tight end position in your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10?
Boy, I got to put it at about a 3.
Wow.
I feel like there's a lot of potential there. I feel like there's a lot of possibility there. This could be a group that we feel very good about at the end of November. But because of all the unknowns, I just can't bank on these guys yet. I think they can do it, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah, I have him as a 5, and
Okay.
I'm betting on Heinrich Harburg's athleticism. Luke Lindenmeyer is a proven blocker, and I know they'll use him in that way. And I feel like between Lindenmeyer, Harburg, Markway, Nelson, and maybe, Lindenmeyer mentioned Danny King, Caden Nectar. I don't know how much those guys are going to. Eric Ingwerson, they may not play a whole lot, but between all of those guys, the talent they have to get to a place like Nebraska, and knowing what Holgerson did in the offense to feature them and to involve them in the pass game, I feel like they're going to have a little bit of success. And I'm right on that borderline of, right down the middle. I'm riding the fence. It's a 5 for me in terms of confidence in the tight ends. But like you said, it is unproven, but I feel like there's definitely something there. And it's only 6 weeks away before we see exactly what is there. Less than 6 weeks, technically, because the Huskers open on a Thursday against Cincinnati. All right, when we come back, Nate, it's a little bit of a discussion on the most important game of the season. Interested in where both of us end up on this, because, like I said, there's a lot of different angles you could take as far as which one is really the one to get if you're Nebraska in 2025. We'll do that right when we come back here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
Husker football, basketball, baseball, and beyond. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on 1499.3 KLIN.
All right. It's a fun what the players to be doing, but we're not players. We're looking ahead. We're putting games in the W and the L column. And we're picking, in this case, Nate, the most important game on the schedule for the 2025 season. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
All right, I will go first. I'm gonna count them down. Actually, I'll give you my top three. So I am not gonna pick Iowa as much as I would like to, because I think Nebraska's got to earn the right to make that game matter. I'm gonna start with, I think number 3 is Michigan. And if they're 3-0, that's going to be an important game. But it's not like a must-get game. It's just one of those games where they're going to be, I think, a home underdog. And if you can get that, it really sets you on a path. But it's not necessary to handle that game and get a win to accomplish what you want to accomplish, I don't think. Number 2 is Minnesota for me. It's a Friday game right after a Saturday road trip out to Maryland. They're going to go from Saturday at Maryland to Friday at Minneapolis. And Nate, they haven't won in Minnesota since 2016. And PJ Fleck is, like you said, kind of becoming Iowa, Diet Iowa almost, where they have the identity and you know exactly what they're going to do, but you can't fricking stop it. If they can get that game coming off of that long road trip, because then you have a long layoff, or you have an extra day anyway to get ready for Northwestern back at home. Minnesota is really important, but number 1 for me, November 1st, USC. If you can get a big win against a big name school, you may be a home underdog again. And when that calendar turns to November, if Nebraska is playing meaningful football and they get a win against the Trojans, they're going to be in the playoff conversation. I'm just telling people right now.
Yeah.
If they do that, that's where they'll be. I don't know that they will. That's game 9. Okay, so they could potentially be heading to 7-2 at that point. Even 6-3, I think they'll get a little conversation because they're going to have that Penn State opportunity later.
Right.
But that one's number 1 for me is USC.
Okay, as I was sitting there listening to you, it was funny. I'll tap out Iowa too, just because there's just too much road to go between then and now to determine its importance. I think I'll go pretty much inverse of you. 3rd is USC, because that game really kind of sets your ceiling. If you win it, then yeah, you're in the heart of the playoff conversation. That Minnesota game, maybe I should have it as 1, but it's at least 2, because if this program is going where we all hope it's going, that's a game they win. I think Nebraska's got more talent. I think Nebraska's better set up, but Nebraska hasn't beaten Minnesota. Yeah. And so much of being a winning football program is just taking care of the games you should win. You've talked about how Nebraska's probably going to be a home dog against Michigan and USC. They very well could be a road favorite against Minnesota. Take care of business, get the job done. But Michigan's number 1, because if you win that game, then everything, you go into October with so much momentum. Play a Michigan State team you should beat, dangerous as that phrase is. You go to Maryland, that's a game you should win. And then all of a sudden, that ceiling of your season rises and rises. Plus, it's a win against a brand name opponent in your building early, when the conversation about college football 2025 is being set. So I say Michigan's the most important, but don't sleep on that Minnesota game. If this thing's going where we want it to go, the Huskers take care of business at Minnesota. I think it's a really important indicator for where things are with this program this season.
Yeah, you mentioned how that the early conversation is set, in September for the season. Not only that, Nate, but that Michigan game comes right before a bye.
Sure.
So if you are the difference between 4-0 versus 3-1 in that bye week is enormous.
Yep.
Not to mention the fact that Michigan may be right on the fringe or maybe in the top 10 when they come here, because they will play Oklahoma before they play Nebraska. And Oklahoma has the transfer quarterback from Washington State. People think they're on the rise. If they can get that game coming into Lincoln, they're going to be riding high, and then Nebraska will have the opportunity to knock them down. So fascinating discussion, and I can't wait for it to all play out. But that is me and Nate's most important games of the 2025 season. Obviously, the opener is very important too, but I feel like that one's too easy. So I like that both of us went in that direction, kind of in the meat of the schedule. Okay, when we come back, a former Husker gets his first Major League Baseball hit and a very big recruiting battle. Did Nebraska win it with a national power? We'll get you set for this week of Big Ten Media Days as well, coming up here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
You're listening. Talking with current and former Huskers and those that cover the Big Red. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, congrats to Bryce Matthews with the Astros, gets his first career hit. Nebraska loses out on Valden Sohn to Georgia, a D-line recruit from Sweden. And Nate, getting ready for this week, Nebraska talks on Tuesday in Las Vegas at Big Ten Media Days.
Yeah, going to be interesting to hear if anything comes out of that or a lot of coach speak. I'm sure Matt Rule will have a nugget or two for us in that discussion in Vegas.
Yeah, and Dylan Raiola, Deshaun Singleton, Henry Lutovsky, too. Interested in what those guys have to say as well. All right, we'll be back next Saturday to talk all about it, plus another player and position preview. We'll get to that next Saturday. We'll be 5 weeks away from the season after that. So for Kenny Larrabee, and thanks to Luke Lindenmeyer, and that's Nate Rohr, I'm Cole Stukenholtz. Go Big Red.